Hello everybody. See if I can get tuned up here. Bob will be here shortly. And I'm here shortly already. Of course, it's the only way I know how to get here is shortly. This is the day before it snows tonight, supposedly. And we have another little internet show going. Hopefully we'll inform, entertain, and amuse. Not necessarily in that order. We are not currently doing our Channel 12 show. We're going to rework things a little bit and possibly come back next week. Channel 12 is having, the WLAF is having some contractual difficulties with Comcast, and I don't know a whole lot about it, and don't pretend to, but they are they're working things out, and we'll probably come back with a whole new show. And I want to tell you, I am working on another little show that will be done here on the internet and also be rebroadcast on Channel 12. I think that's the way it's going to work. And it'll be kind of a different thing, a little less politics and a little bit more information. I want to do something on the local area and the surrounding area, something to do with the people who live here, the culture that's built this place. And I might throw in a little political opinion occasionally too, because that seems to get me in much more trouble than anything else. And I'm kind of getting used to being in trouble. Don't know exactly what it will be called or if I'll even name it, but I want to do a show about the history of this area. And by the way, if you happen to have roots here, have a story to tell, can come up with something about your family or some of the early settlers or something interesting, and you don't have to back up to 1812. You know, we had a lot of things going on here back during World War II, back during the resettlement of the TVA. People who got kicked off, a lot of things going on with, for instance, the great train wreck that they had back during World War II. If there's anybody alive that still remembers that, I'd like to talk to you. I'd like to interview you and get your memories. I foolishly let the people slip away who could tell these stories. They're gone now. And of course, I didn't have the opportunity, the equipment to record and to preserve that stuff. It was not really within my reach to do that, besides the fact that I didn't appreciate how fast those people were leaving us. There are so many stories here that are still locked in the minds of these older people that I would like to help rescue, bring them out, let them tell their stories. So if you or somebody in your family or somebody that you're acquainted with would be willing to share those memories and experiences, I'd love to film that. We've got some local talent, some people that can actually sing and play music, and they're not really that appreciated like they should be, and maybe we could do our small part in introducing them to the world. So if you've got any friends or yourself or somebody who can help do that, I'd be tickled to death to hear about it. And you can call me at work, which is Circle R Metal, 562-2676. And also, by the way, I do sell roofing metal and sell all sorts of building products. I can save you money on about anything. I don't sell everything, but I sell a good bunch of stuff. I can sell you enough to build a house. It may not be like your neighbor's house, but who wants to live in your neighbor's house? We currently have some politicians who are pretty enthused about their efforts to take your money and spend it wisely. I'm not sure I share their enthusiasm. Apparently we had a uh-oh going on down there in new jail. I think it's a justice center now. We had a uh-oh going down there, and so we didn't plan the thing as effectively as we should have, so we're going to have to pony up some more money. Don't seem to really understand how we could plan and unplan and replan so many times and still come out with a problem. But I guess I don't understand the world of high finance and local government, and I do know a little bit about engineering and about architecture. And it seems to me that we've had too many disappointments with this little project we got going on. We built jails all over Jacksboro, and we still ain't got things done. I think that's quite remarkable that we could have the third jail and still be looking to write some insufficient space. But what do I know? I'm just a lowly roofing salesman. Can't expect me to be up to snuff on everything that goes on. Bob assured me he would be about 10 minutes late, so it looks like he's got less than 3 minutes left to get himself here. I think I may hear him. I should lock the door, I suppose, but I told him I'd take the first 10 minutes and then he could talk a while. My problem is not that I can't think of anything to say, I just can't think of anything to say that anybody would want to hear. And I also begin to lose my voice after a while. But looks like the late Bob Andrews has arrived. And you might want to set that back a little bit there. You might.
Yeah, I don't want to get singed now.
Wouldn't want to send you.
Right.
I'd like to introduce my accomplice here.
You ever seen the chicken?
Yeah, and squirrels. Did you ever see the squirrels?
Yeah. Sure have.
And more, I never did. We always skinned our chickens.
Yeah, we didn't. We very seldom skinned them. We plucked them feathers and singed them tails.
Well, it's quicker just to just cut a chunk out and pull both ways and you're done.
Right, yeah.
But we seen squirrels because I don't care what you do, you can't keep the hair off of them.
Yeah.
We always had a newspaper, hold that squirrel up and singe you.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I got a question for you, Bob.
Lay it on me.
I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
I've been mulling over this here solar panels on the schools.
Right, okay.
Don't they have to have some sort of a controlling apparatus for each location?
What kind of control?
Well, you know, where the juice comes off and they turn it into something else.
Yeah, each one of them is fed in separately.
Well, would it be more efficient if they could consolidate all those things and just have one controller?
You mean like at one location?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, so why are we putting these things on the top of these school buildings instead of just having them down here in one field? It's going to all go to the same place.
Well, because the people who put them there or decide to put them there, they have control over the schools. Okay?
Well, here's what I'm thinking. they do that stuff because everybody thinks, well, you put them up there and get them close to the sun. Yeah, you get them 20, 30, maybe even 40 feet closer to the sun, you just shorten the distance between there and 93 million miles.
Yeah, boy, that's decisive.
Yeah, it must be.
Yeah.
Well, do you ever stop and think that we've got a bunch of total idiots that paying them people down there? That's us. They smart. They pull that stuff off.
Oh yeah, they're smart to get away with, and as has been mentioned before, if it were not the fact that they were selling the power back to the power company for as much as the power company is selling it to the individuals, there's nowhere in the world that they would have any opportunity to liquidate those, just liquidate them.
Why didn't we take one of these fields that the county owns that are not using, a ball field or anything, or some of them schoolhouses they give away or something? Why didn't they take that and have one distribution point, one collector and then they wouldn't have to climb on top of the building. They could maintain them. They go out and wipe them off. Are we complete fools?
No, there's got to be some real smart reason for that.
I think it. When this occurred to me I've got satellite radio at home.
Right. Okay.
Because I don't have television. I listen to Fox News and stuff. And I'm out there working one day trying to get this antenna up on top of the house where it'll come in good.
Right.
And I got to thinking, well, now wait a minute. The only thing I'm going to do is hit a satellite that's up there 250 miles.
Right.
And 8, 10 feet ain't going to make much difference.
Right.
So I went out there and put me a little shelf out on my house, a little thing, and set that on it, and it works just fine. And I don't have to climb on top of the house. So I lost about 6 or 8 feet, but it works fine. And them solar panels would work just as good down on the ground.
Yeah, well, I think
Hello.
that's very true,
Yeah.
But it seems so romantic, I guess, to put solar panels on the roof of the building, where it will probably cause the roofs to decay and cause more problems over the years than if you had them down low where you could service them. And I don't think, that they can put a fence around the area that they're using the solar panels. You just think if they're so profitable, why wouldn't they put them anywhere? I guess one of the reasons may be that the government cannot go into a money-making enterprise. But with the solar panels being placed on the roof of the buildings, and a credit is being given to each of those locations, and maybe the general power bill of the county, then that does not mean that it's a money-making thing. It's offsetting expenses. So if you put them out in the field, they would not be offsetting expenses, even though they possibly could have put them in a field that was adjacent to the school building and have done it that way. I don't really know. Sometimes the government seems to be the leading arbiter of everything that's haywire in this country. I was just reading today in the paper where many of your countries in Africa, which are supposed to be backwards, and I guess they are, because what they've done has been completely backwards. They have passed laws that ban homosexuals from conducting meetings and organizations, and if they are openly homosexuals in most of those countries, I believe there are several of them, then they are subject to imprisonment. In one country, up to 14 years for being outwardly gay. So I don't know whether we are ahead of the curve or behind the curve here in the United States with the way we look at things. It's just very, very difficult to really say, and I'll kind of let you take a look at me while I'm talking here. Ronnie's about to burn me up with this Digger Wilson's propane, so I'm going to turn this around just a little bit so I won't get all the hairs on my legs singed off. But you know, folks, if you haven't got some of that good Digger Wilson propane, you better go down and get it, because we're going to get a little weather, inclement weather here, I believe, later on tonight or in the morning, you know, and we could get enough snow, I guess, to make us wish we'd gone to the store. I don't know whether we're going to get that much or not, but I do want to say one thing about Digger Wilson's propane. You know, I've been saying he had 42 flavors of propane, and that Baskin Robbins had 42 flavors of ice cream, and that Digger Wilson had 42 flavors of propane. He told me that Baskin Robbins only had 27 flavors of ice cream. Then I read where they have gone up to, they've got 34 flavors of ice cream now.
Are we doing commercials?
Oh, no, I'm just talking about...
Talking about that good old Digger
yeah,
propane?
and it's about to singe the hairs off my legs here.
Well, it works, don't it?
Yeah, I said that right. Might have me on the supper plate here if we get all them hairs singed off. But I was talking about the solar panels.
Yeah.
The government is prohibited from going into a profit-making situation. Okay, they can't.
Well, they got that solved. They don't ever make any money.
Boy, that's one thing they got them fat. But by placing them on the roofs, then they can deduct and say that is a way to defer the cost of their electricity. Okay?
Well, they could still do it if they just...
Well, not necessarily. If they were at a remote location, you know, I don't know exactly. It looks like to me they could.
Well, it's the same thing.
Well,
only it would save them money.
Right, I know that.
But they wouldn't have got to buy as much equipment.
Well, that's true. And,
That's how it all works out.
I don't know, but you know, it may have something to do, just like they had the White Oak School up there produced $2,000 more electrical current than they used. Of course, this was in the summertime, you know, and the school wasn't even in session, and so that's the reason they produced $2,000 more. I don't know how they're doing now that cold weather is here, and the sun's not shining as much. That way it's shining as much, it's not getting through as much.
No, it ain't shining as much here.
Yeah.
Because it gets dark earlier.
Yeah, there you go. Days are shorter, that's true. So, meanwhile, what other difficulty do we want?
Well, I don't know. I just, I've been mulling that there thing over about them there solar panels and wondering what difference 10 feet makes when you're talking about 93 million miles.
Right. Well, I really don't know what the purpose of that is, why that is. I know that they're trying to conserve land and space,
Is that it?
Yeah.
It's the price of a leaky roof.
Yeah.
Well, I sell roofing, but they won't buy none off of me.
I felt like that would cause the roof to deteriorate sooner. And,
Well, but maybe it keeps the rain off of it.
Well, possibly, that they would seal them in between where they would be the bearer of the water.
That could be. Of course, you could have a problem with not being able to hold the solar panels up when it snows hard.
Right, yeah. If we get a big heavy snow, I hope none of them wind up in the basement.
That would certainly be an embarrassment.
Right, sure would. Maybe to change the subject a little bit, how long you been reading or listening to the news? but the richer are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer in this world.
Now, Richard I know is doing all right, but he ain't rich.
Do what?
Richard I know, he ain't doing
well,
so good.
Well, it's hard to say, you know. Things are kind of misreported by the government. You know, this past month they reported that they added 74,000 new jobs to the economy.
Yeah.
Okay. And they lowered the unemployment rate from 7 to 6 something, wasn't it?
Yeah.
They failed to mention that there were 76,000 people that dropped out of the labor force, but they didn't count them.
There's more than 76 dropped out, wasn't
Just in that month.
he? Okay.
Okay, I think it was 76,000 dropped out that month, which meant there were no new jobs added, and that there really was 76,000 people more on the unemployment roster.
Well, that's all right, because unemployment goes on forever and the money never ends.
Right, that's true. You know, they're still up there debating how they can pay these people for not working a little bit longer, because it's going to cost us a bunch of jobs if we quit paying these people not to work.
I'm trying to figure out how many people we have to lay off before we've got enough people unemployed that everybody's working. You know, if you've got unemployment supposed to create jobs, I'm just wondering how many people you have to unemploy before you got everybody working.
We're doing pretty good. There's only 63 million people in the labor force now.
Is that right?
That's the lowest number since 1978 when Jimmy Carter was in office.
Oh, that's everything's successful then, ain't it?
Yeah, yeah. And
This is changing, fundamentally changing the United States.
Right, yeah, they're fundamentally changing the United States, all right. And you know, you can win all the basketball games you play if you're the one keeping score.
That's kind of like playing golf with some people, ain't
Well,
it?
yeah. If you keep score, you know, about like this little fella, the ball come hopping across the green and went in the cup.
Yeah.
This little fella come just huffing and puffing up the hill. Says, "Hey, did you see my ball come across here?" Says, "Yeah, man." Says, "That's a great shot." Says, "It dribbled right across this green and went in the cup." He one of them picked up and said, "Yeah, that's my ball." He said, "Hey, Charlie, give me a 10.
Oh.
So, you know, if you keep score, and that's what the government does, they're not telling the truth about the employment or unemployment numbers.
Everybody around here lies. Let me ask you a question. What happened out there at Denver today? The car run that feller?
I don't know what happened.
It looked like there's a car went in that yard there.
It may have. I came along while the...
Well, no, I passed you. I met you there.
Did you?
Yeah.
You were going back.
I was going the other way.
And I noticed at about 9:30 that Sheriff Munger had not come from home yet. Did you meet him on out there anywhere?
I saw him, and then I saw him. As I come out, I saw him going back in. Yeah, I saw him going both ways.
Did you?
Yeah.
Well, when you went by where the blue lights were, was he on out past there?
I don't remember.
Well, the thing about it is, since he's out there and he is always on call for a ghost patrol, why did they need another officer there other than him to handle that situation?
Now, wait a minute. Hold on here. I came out, saw him somewhere, but he would have been going the other way. I don't remember. I remember seeing him twice today, and I saw him going in as I was coming out. But I don't.
Just to see.
Yeah.
Well, sure. I mean, he leaves at 4 o'clock every day, and he doesn't go to
That
work.
was before 4.
Yeah, but I mean, he's gone by 4, you know.
That was around 3:30.
Well, you probably had to go and go patrol.
He probably did. He's
Yeah.
probably going out there to count your
Yeah,
chickens.
Yeah, yeah. And, I mean, it ain't that but one, you know.
Well, that's about as far as he can count, I reckon.
Exactly right. So I'm sure you met him going home before 4 o'clock. I'm positive of that.
Well, I know I was surprised because I thought he worked school zone, and there wasn't school
No,
zone.
he don't work nowhere except goes down there, sits in the office and sits on the desk
And goes home and
and
captures
goes home. Yeah.
goat villains.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it seems like a good deal to me.
And he certainly was not on the job this morning at 9:30 there at the Morton girl's house.
I can't remember where I saw him, but I saw him this morning.
Right.
Well, I saw the vehicle. I think he is the one that's driving
The
it.
SUV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, you can't have too much goat police.
Oh, I know that. You got at least
If everybody's goats like mine, you need a whole troop of them.
Oh Lord. I just hope my goats don't calve during this little storm we got coming up.
You don't need a little help breeding them goats, do you? I've got some
No,
guys looking for some
No,
fun.
she's bred, okay, and she probably have a couple of kids here. I was hoping maybe March. You know, I'm not sure how long they.
You don't need another billy goat, do you?
No, sure don't.
Hmm.
Sure don't. No, my goats are good goats. You know, I told you. I'll tell you, I bought a bunch of old bread to feed them. I bought 130 loaves of bread for $8.
Do they like it?
They like the whole wheat better than they do the rest.
Do they?
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to go out and buy some too, I guess.
right.
I'm
Now they'll sell you 5 racks, you know, for $4, you know.
I'm gonna have to rebuild my fence. I took my fence down. I've been doing some moving around.
Right,
I'm gonna have to fence them in again.
right.
I don't believe there's any animals in the world that can be more aggravating than 2
Right.
goats.
Right.
But I'm gonna go up there. When do you want to do that little surgery?
You tell me.
I wanna.
Well, I'll take James. I'll take you. You've seen the movie Crocodile Dundee?
Yeah.
Well, that's my donk up there. I'll take my donk with me.
Well, I was gonna get Ike to help.
Right.
I've got to get somebody to film the thing too,
Right.
just in case it turns out right. I want to.
Well, it'll keep you from having any malpractice.
That's right. That's right.
Lawsuits.
Hadn't thought of that.
Right. And I want to see how it comes out too, because after these kids are born, that this one has fathers, when they get up breeding age, I'm gonna have to do something with him.
I got to do something with these two. I mean, they just can't rest for trying to figure out who's Lucy.
Right.
I don't know. They aggravate and they climb on their buddies or tear it up or eat it.
Right. Well, I enjoy my goats. You know, I'll go back out and feed them good tonight. It's supposed to snow some in them tonight.
My dog's ailing.
Is it?
Yeah,
What's wrong?
she just ain't got no energy, and I think she's running a fever.
Really?
Yeah. Got any
How
ideas?
old is she?
8. She just lively as she could be up for
Yeah.
about a week ago.
I'll tell you what I'd do. I'd feed her a little meat or something if she'd eat it, and slip an aspirin in there.
I hadn't thought about an aspirin. Aspirin might help.
Yeah. I do that, yeah. Of course, those little ones, I don't put a full aspirin with them. They put 'em-
Well, she weighs about 40 pounds.
oh, she could handle a whole aspirin, you know.
I don't want to give her no Tylenol. I think that kills dogs, don't it?
I don't know.
I think I read that somewhere.
I went up and had the doctor to look at my hip. I got to go back and get some x-rays because I have a hip that bothers me.
I'm glad he looked at it instead of me.
So, he says, in the meantime, says, why don't you go down to the drugstore and get you some 500 milligram Tylenol. I said, I don't want to take nothing for it. I just want to see if there's anything you can do for it. And I got an eye appointment in the morning, and they're going to want to push me to do this other eye. I'm going to tell them I am not going to have them operate on my good eye. I can't see as good eye the one they've done as the one they haven't done.
Well, I'm glad I had mine done, but I was blind and you wasn't.
No, I wasn't.
You could see better before you had yours done than I could.
Right.
Much better.
Right.
No, I'm well satisfied to get my eyes done. If I could just get the rest of me fixed now, I'd be all right.
Well, I'm fortunate, folks, that as far as I know, I'm in pretty good health.
You're in the best shape for any 30-year-old man in town, ain't you?
Right. I'm in pretty good shape. You know, you never know when you're going to leave this world, so you always got to be ready. And I told somebody, you know, when I went in the hospital, they wanted me to sign
Living will?
a living will.
Yeah.
Which indicates that you want to die with dignity, which
Yeah.
means they'll take you off life support,
Yeah.
you know, and that sort of thing. And I didn't want to sign it, and they said, well, don't you want to die with dignity? I said, no, I want to go hog-tied in drugs. So that's the way I feel about it. I know my wife's father had him on life support, and they wanted to take him off, and I told them no. I said, that man has worked many, many years, and he deserves as much chance as he can get to live. So they kept him on life support for many more days, and he come off of them. He didn't come off of them, and he went home, was able to live at home about 4 or 5 months. And then he got sick again, went back in. He finally, I guess his lungs or something collapsed, and he was taken away from here. But at least he got to go back home and spend several weeks, several months with his family. And I thought that was real, real good, and I was very, very proud we had the medical technique that allowed him to do that.
Well, they told your daddy he might well go home and make room to die when he was conscripted for World War I, didn't they?
Well, yeah, they turned my dad down in 1918 for having a bad heart, and he lived until 1991, which was 73 years.
Well, they wasn't off much.
Huh?
They wasn't off much.
No, that wasn't off. And I know when my mother broke her hip, she was climbing a ladder up in the barn to grate out tobacco. And at 70, she was about 72, 73 years old, and she missed a run and something fell backwards and broke her hip.
Mm-hmm.
So my dad called the only doctor that he knew, and that was the one that had delivered me 35, 36 years earlier. So he got up and met the old doctor, who just happened to be at his son's office that day, who had the same name. And he says, well, Mr. Andrews, I'm retired and I'm not able to help your wife. Says, who is your family doctor? My daddy says, well, you are. We just hadn't needed you. So they hadn't called him in 35 years, you know. And, Dad was kind of taken aback because they never called a doctor unless it was an absolute emergency. And, my mother lived to be 90 years old, and Dad, he was the same age. In fact, he was a couple months younger than she was, and he lived to be 100. So he outlived her 10 years, and say you went home after Mom died, and he kept house about 4 or 5 years by himself. And one day he said, sure, it's getting rough to go over there by myself. I said, well, come on, we'll just go down to my house. I said, so he went down to my house and lived just about all the rest of his life. So somewhere around about 12 years he and Mom lived with me.
Well, that just goes to show that no matter how good you live in life, you'll end up paying for it when you get old, having to live with people like you.
Yeah, I was telling somebody they was having a problem with their children and everything. I said, well, I don't know what the situation is. I said, I never sashed my mother or sashed my dad. And I was bigger than my dad when I was in the ninth grade because he was a small person. And he was wiry and tough now, but I was bigger than he was when I was in the ninth grade. And all of his boys and all of them were much, much bigger men than he was. But none of us, I can say, ever sashed him.
Well, I ain't never had that problem with my young'uns either.
Right. And none of them's ever sashed me either. None of my children have.
And they've got their own opinions about stuff, and I know they're wrong most of the time, but they still, you know, they don't treat me mean.
Right. Well, you know, my children, I've never given them an occasion to sass me. Okay. I never have really.
Well, you know, you always, if you raise kids, especially as they start growing up, you're going to have some disagreements because you still think they ought to do everything just the way you tell them to do it, and they're starting to think maybe they want to do things their way. But I've been lucky. I'm glad I didn't knock them in the head.
Well, you know, me too, and you too. I'm sensible enough to know that they're going to have different ways of looking at things and different things that they want to do, and I've understood that. And I've never really kept strangleholds on my children. I never tried to tell them what to do, but I have always expected what I wanted them to do.
Kind of hard to hold back when you know they're screwing up, though, ain't it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, you take that little one, mine, they just bought a home and paid for it. And I tried to tell them they're paying about $15,000 too much money for that house, which I feel they got a nice house. I still believe they saw them young'uns coming, and I said, you want me to go with them and negotiate? Well, they had them so afraid that they wouldn't get the house, you know. You walk in there with $100,000 cash money, I believe you're in control of the situation rather than the real estate agent.
Yeah.
And that's what they did. They walked in there with $100,000 cash money, and that's about what they paid. They're like the Undertaker. You know, Undertaker,
yeah.
They always have a sign in there that we only charge what the family can afford.
And we make sure we don't charge a penny less.
Right, and they make sure they charge every penny that the family can afford, you know. And,
you know, when my daddy died, I bought him a wooden casket because I didn't want to put him in a tin box.
right,
And that sucker was about $6,000 or $7,000.
right. What was it?
Cherry wood.
Cherry wood?
But I'm not used to dealing with that, and I'm going to say $6,000. And I didn't know nothing about negotiating with undertakers or nothing. And I wasn't dissatisfied with the deal. But when we buried my mother, I got her a wooden casket for about $2,800. Because I found out they didn't need to cost $6,000.
Well, you know, we hear all this debate about how health care is increasing and increasing. It's death care that's really has increased so much that a lot of people are going to cremation.
Yeah.
But my sister had her husband cremated, and cost $1,400, I think, with the urn.
Yeah.
And,
Them urns, a box won't do. You got to have an urn.
you got to have an urn, and I've had them when I was in the death care industry out at the cemetery. They bring me an urn and a bag full of remains, and you always had more than would go in that urn. So,
You didn't flush it, did you? You didn't flush it, did you?
just about, yeah. Then I had a woman who owned her cemetery spaces, and she owned her vaults, and she owned her marker at a cemetery I worked in Greensboro, North Carolina. And her husband died in Colorado. So she just got her a joint, threw him in the back of the pickup truck, They brought him up there and delivered him to me.
Yeah.
I said, I want you to bury him tomorrow. And I said, well, I said, in North Carolina, you'll have to call an undertaker. They have to, unless you're going to be here.
You have to make sure he's dead.
Yeah. So we got him in the ground, and so. I've had a lot of unusual things happen.
I read the other day about this guy wrote about when he was just, I think he's in college, and he got a job working in a mortuary, and he said that, and I kind of believe he was in England. But anyway, he had this guy that he had died of, and this is several years ago, he had died of leukemia, they thought, and they wanted part of the process of burying him, they had him to take a bone, a femur out, you know, and send it in to be analyzed for some reason. Well, he said he had the body all ready to go and had the leg sewed back up, and said this here guy come to get the guy to take him, said that leg fell off of the cart. He was just a dangling loose there, and that got a hand hauling that feller. Well, he said he didn't know what to do, and he went to look for some way to fix that leg, and the guy said, I'm going to go eat dinner, and when I come back, we'll do something. So he said he went out back and said there's a piece of an old piece of galvanized pipe lead back there, and he took that and put it in that guy's leg and sewed it back up and pulled his britches leg down and said he sent the thing off. He said everything was going good till they cremated him.
Right.
he said they cremated this guy and went to get the ashes, and the family was there and said, here come this here iron bar, and fell out on the floor. Said that didn't go over real well, but he said he said the guy that owned the mortuary there, he was throwing a fit, and he took him back there and he said, now look, he said, I want to show you something. He went back there and they had some wooden dowels in there. They used dowels in there that they used for situations like that. He said, now this will burn up. Don't you ever do that no more.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you about this lady's husband died. And she came up to view the body after they had embalmed him and everything. And she says, he sure does look good. He's really good. And she looked over in the casket next to him. There was a younger man there who was all dressed up in a white sport coat, a blue shirt, and a black tie. She says, I hate to be hard to deal with, but says, my husband was always a sport when he was a young man. Says, I'm wondering if you could dress him like the guy in the casket beside him. He says, be no trouble at all. Said, you come back in about an hour or two. So she left, and the undertaker yelled back there to his worker, said, come in here and change the head on these two guys.
Oh! How'd that work?
I guess okay.
There's a guy used to work in the mortuary talking about they went after this body and they had to carry it down these steps and winding steps and going down through there, and the guy's head fell off rolling down the stairs. I don't know. I'm glad I ain't in that. There's a fella up here, I ain't gonna tell you his name, but I wouldn't. I mean, he wouldn't care if me tell him, but he's notorious for throwing his voice.
Right.
And he got in all sorts of fights, you know. He'll pull that stuff. There's a guy up here one day, he come in up there and he's hollering for this fella outside, and that guy, when he figured out what was going on, he wanted to whoop him. But he pulled that stump, this guy, they buried him and he pulled that stuff, and they had to get the guy back out and find out for sure he's dead, and I think that went over real well with his boss. He's about to kill him.
I'm sure that will. Most people don't know it, but a lot of these velour-looking caskets are nothing but cardboard.
Yeah.
And they used to get $700-800, maybe $900 for a cardboard box.
Yep.
And they evidently the one that they'd put this guy in had kind of got a little damp.
Yeah.
Okay?
I know what you're going to tell me.
And they were carrying him out across the cemetery, going to put him in a mausoleum.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Ordinarily, they would have put him in a vault, but they were going to put him in the mausoleum. And I looked at him going out across there, and I saw one foot sticking out. I walked up and walked beside him. I kind of held it up. I said, better get him there quick. I said, this thing's going to come all apart. So,
I know my mother's talking about, a neighbor woman they buried one time, and they didn't have much money, and they buried her in a box like that, and she wasn't a big woman. I mean, that's before my time, but I know she wasn't a big woman. She'd been sick a while. I'm sure she didn't weigh 110 pounds, but she's talking about, heard one of them pallbearers say, kind of hold the bottom of this. It's liable to fall through on us.
Well, I might as well educate the people a little bit, Let all your vaults leak. And if you ever have to dig a vault up out of the ground, you usually have to knock a hole inside of it to let the water out, because the backhoe's not stout enough to pick it up full of water. So, rather than buying, if you want to preserve the remains of your loved one, they make a vault that has a platform that you put the casket on, and then you set the lid over top of it, okay? And that forms an air vapor. In other words, water won't come up so high in there. It's just like if you take a glass and turn it upside down and stick it in the sink, the water won't come all the way up in the sink because the air will hold it off. Well, that's what happens with that, and it'll keep it dry enough that it won't get the casket wet. So usually those are made out of plastic.
Yeah, they call that fiberglass, Bob. They call it fiberglass.
They're extruded plastic, what they are, because I've been down to the plant that makes them, and they also made walls for swimming pools.
Let's just turn it a different way.
Made walls and made walls for swimming pools,
turn it a different way.
Which was an extruded type of plastic. Nothing wrong with that. Plastic lasts about as long as anything in the ground. That's the only thing that destroys it is ultraviolet rays.
And they claim them there plastic bags is taking up all that landfill space because it takes 10,000 years for it to rot.
Well, I've always wondered, why in the world would you want to put something in a landfill that would rot?
It just sink, wouldn't it? Make a hole.
Well, yeah, I know that, but put something in there like plastic and stuff like that, and
then we can build a house on it.
Build a house on that,
Well, I had never thought of it that way, but you're right.
Right.
If it rots, it's got to sink, don't it?
Yeah. How come when you have like your field dirt around here, they won't let you put anything in there that would rot. You can't put wood and stuff like that in there. You have to put something in there that's solid, right?
Yeah.
But yet, when you go in landfill, they don't want you to put anything in there that's solid. They want you to put everything in there that'll decay.
I can't figure out why they don't want you to put sheetrock in a hole. All it is gypsum and paper.
Right.
I mean, that's rock and wood.
Right, yeah.
Well, I do know
and
too.
Also asphalt shingles. They want asphalt shingles.
We're not allowed to do that because we have got a bunch of people that want a job, and the more complicated they make it for you to run your own business, the more jobs they've got.
Well, you take asphalt shingles, they could shred them up if they want to do tires. In fact, J.R. Kitt shreds all of his tires and takes them to Scott County where they're not, they don't charge by the tire, they charge by the ton for disposing of them.
Well, they won't let you put asphalt in the ground, and because it's supposed to be the water coming off of it does something bad. Is that right?
Well, but you know, when you have them on your roof, does the water come off of it?
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Where does that water go when it comes off your roof?
Yeah, that's true. You know, we have a lot of crazy.
We don't have crazy laws. We've got crazy people obeying the laws and electing people to pass them laws.
I believe it's West Virginia. They just recently had the chemical spill that's contaminated water.
Mm-hmm.
In spite of that, West Virginia is doing away with most of its environmental laws and trying to block all the federal ones.
Really?
Yeah.
I may move to West Virginia then.
Well, you know, Barack Obama was the only one in the world that's ever been able to turn the West Virginia coal miners into Republicans.
Well, he's done a good job of that.
Oh, I know that. He sure has. You got an ultra-liberal there on television in the name of Juan Williams. You know, a lot of times Juan sounds pretty logical until you really look a little bit deeper into what he's saying. And then you find out that he's not all that
well,
understanding.
I tell you, when I got out with him was when he's made stuff defending Obama, when I know he couldn't possibly be stupid enough to believe what he says.
Yeah.
They must call him every night and tell him what he's going to talk about tomorrow, because he's right lockstep with all them other talking points as Democrats.
I think that's true. You know, the newspaper have got all kind of columns to run this bridge slowdown that Christie's going to have perpetrated.
Yep.
But they don't have any columns devoted to our ambassadors getting killed over in Benghazi.
The IRS scandal?
IRS scandal. They don't say anything about that. You know, all they talk about anything that will not reflect on Obama.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's a lost cause. I don't believe you can win. I don't believe this country is going to change until it goes belly up.
Right.
And if you don't have an insurrection, you might have a peaceful change to where we start doing some things that make a little more sense.
Oh, we got an interesting thing coming up. Western Wamp is running again.
Yeah, I know it.
So we might have to get him up here.
Shoot at him again.
Yeah, and we could threaten him.
Well, I think we already kind of weaned him from coming here.
Yeah, we could threaten him, I guess, you know. And, but Weston, we wish him well. We hope he will campaign here in Campbell County. And, you know,
I hope we ain't scared him off.
You know, on our 8 o'clock Wednesday night spot on TV, you know that Jerry Chadwell has spoken for that slot.
Mm-hmm.
And you know why?
Why?
I think JRL informed me that was his show, not Jerry's show.
Yeah, I heard that.
That Jerry had to get his own show
because
I think he was wanting to take over RL's show.
I think we ought to kind of wait and see how things work out. We'll get us, I wouldn't care to have a 30-minute show on Saturday or something.
Right, yeah.
I mean, we'll look into the possibilities. I'm going to do something, but
Right.
but I was kind of tired of Wednesday night. It wasn't really, that's a church night.
Right, yeah.
All our people are holy rollers, and we got to take care of them.
All we got was the dough beers and the potheads, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Digger and RL.
Yeah. And we about done this one. We need to go,
Right.
I guess.
Yeah, folks. You know,
Thank you for tuning in. No use to watch first tomorrow night, but this will be on YouTube, and you can see it later if you want
right,
to. If
you
you're
can do that.
at Ustream or at YouTube.
Right, and if you see a stray goat herder out running around, tell them that there are other things to do other than worry about goats.
And if you have a chicken in your field
Yeah,
and you feel threatened, be
Right.
sure and call the Campbell County Sheriff's
and
Department.
ask for Sheriff Munger.
Yeah. Happy trails, everybody.
See ya.